Did you know that Netero's 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva has at least 96 other hand maneuvers that we simply did not get to see in the series? One of which is the 100th hand, which activates all of the arms simultaneously and has them click that subscribe button so that Netero can receive regular Hunter x Hunter content uploaded straight into his YouTube feed. A very powerful attack indeed. Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything anime and manga. And today it's time to look into a lurking legend of Hunter x Hunter, a man with an unparalleled legacy, and who is sure to have a profound impact on the series, Beyond Netero. So if you're an anime-only fan, you'll probably have twigged at part of his name, because yes, Beyond is the son of the former chairman of the Hunter Association, Isaac Netero, which you can probably also tell by the strong resemblance Beyond bears to his father, because the Netero clan seems to have very distinctive facial features. Now, if you're wondering why we haven't discovered that such an important figure had a son much sooner in the series, well, you're not alone, because even the Zodiacs were not aware of Beyond's existence before it was publicly revealed by King Nasubi Huigoro of the Kakkin Empire. And it just goes to show that this world is so expansive that you can never be sure what's lying in wait out there. I mean, we've traveled all over the human realm, and in theory we should have a good grasp of the top hunters and nen users, but then all of a sudden, a man whose name clearly implies that he may be even more powerful than Isaac Netero himself just appears out of nowhere. And people might say that the claims about his power is a bit of a stretch, especially since we have seen the full extent of what Isaac was capable of, so how could his brat even come close to rivaling that? Well, I have to say that yes, it is entirely possible, because we don't have a solid answer of exactly how old Beyond is. Because remember, Netero himself is well over 100 years old, so for all we know, Beyond could be in his 70s, 80s, 90s, or even 100 himself, having lived a long and fruitful life, mastering the use of Nen, and being in a stage of his life that much more reflects Netero's prime than his elderly engagement against Meruem. In fact, during the Chimera Ant arc, Isaac even went so far as to state that his time at the top of Nen mastery had long since passed, which does imply that there is a whole new generation of Nen users achieving that pinnacle, and I don't see why Beyond could not be one of them, especially given his impressive pedigree. But with that in mind, how exactly does Beyond fit into the story going forward? Well, Beyond is a figure intrinsically linked to the Dark Continent, and in fact he is the primary driving force behind the entire endeavor, becoming the catalyst for at least 3 different groups to commence a voyage to that destination, being the Kakkin Empire, the Hunter Association, and his own personal expedition team, which has some pretty well-known figures amongst it. Now, as for exactly why Beyond is focused on getting to the Dark Continent, we can only speculate at this stage. However, very interestingly, it should be brought up right here and now that Beyond has actually been to the Dark Continent once already. And this expedition occurred at least 50 years ago when Beyond was hired by the V5, the ruling nations of the human realm, as one of their experts in regards to the Dark Continent, and they in secret planned a sneaky expedition. And I guess when I say in secret, all of the V5 nations were in on it, but they neglected to tell the Hunter Association because at that time Isaac Netero had warned them against it and had even lobbied to forbid all travel to the landmass. And this is because Isaac had first-hand experience of the Dark Continent, having ventured there not only once but twice, and having survived to tell the tale on both occasions. And of course, one of these trips was unofficial and unrecorded, with his reasoning for embarking being the rather selfish search for an ultimate opponent to fight. This voyage was conducted with his 2 friends Exotic and Lin Hors d'oeuvre. And as for the recorded trip, we don't have any more details on that, but this made Isaac, effectively, the world's most prominent expert on the Dark Continent, not including Dawn Freaks of course, and so he exerted profound influence, even forbidding the Hunter Association to venture there. But Beyond and the V5 conducted a secret expedition there anyway, landing on the southern shore of Lake Mobius, and they were allegedly in search of Metallion, a mysterious alchemical plant that would have provided some sort of exceptional benefit to humanity. However, just as with most previous expeditions to the Dark Continent, this party would end up failing in their task and becoming decimated to the point where only 6 survivors, including Beyond, returned safely. And actually one of them didn't return safely at all, because as punishment, the guide constrained what is now known as one of the 5 threats upon the group, forcing them to take back the Zobai disease, which is also known as the Immortality disease, that had infected and killed a large majority of the expedition group. Although there was one member who is still held in captivity, with the disease having cast a torturous immortality upon him. And after this expedition returned, Isaac was a bit more forceful in his attitude to the Dark Continent, given that his son's efforts had brought back an extinction-level threat to humanity. As such, Isaac actively forbade his son Beyond from ever traveling there until after his death. Isaac's death, that is, not Beyond's. And exactly why Beyond would honor this is unknown, but he does appear to have kept his word, and it wasn't until Isaac Netero passed away during his battle with the Chimera Ant King Meruem that Beyond once again put his plan into motion to visit the continent. Although it's not as if he spent this time doing nothing just waiting for this moment, as Beyond needed to find a new benefactor to achieve his goal. And knowing that neither the Hunter Association nor the V5 would cooperate this time around, Beyond set his sights on the Kakian Empire, telling its ruler Nasabi about the great benefits of the Dark Continent and what they could offer his kingdom. And eventually, Nasabi took Beyond's words to heart and decided that he would not only set sail to the landmass, but actively attempt to settle on the Dark Continent, taking with him the entire Kakian royal family, as well as a further 200,000 personnel. And of course, in this effort, Nasabi named Beyond as his guide to the continent. It should be said that this is but one thread of Beyond's master plan though. He's quite a conniving fellow really, and clearly has his sights set on his own personal goals, having formed his own secret expedition team. And apparently this team began to be formed roughly half a century ago, so almost immediately after Beyond's first failed voyage, and it currently consists of around 25 temporary hunters, all of whom are experts in a particular field necessary for survival, as well as 11 mercenaries. And not only that, but for quite some time the team's second in command was one Pariston Hill, the former vice chairman of the Hunter Association. And in fact, the core reason why Pariston became a hunter in the first place and sought power amongst the Institute was so that he could adequately prepare for this voyage. Meanwhile, in the modern day, this team has had an unexpected addition, being Jing Freaks, the former member of the Zodiacs within the Hunter Association. Now, to the best of our knowledge at the time of this recording, Jing and Beyond have never met, but Jing kind of forced his way onto the expedition team regardless, offering very handsome payment to its members, as well as a wealth of information published by Don Freaks. During this time, it also became clear that Beyond had not been so forthright in regards to giving out details about the continent itself, because while he offered 1.5 billion Jenny to any member who stepped foot there, he does appear to have neglected to tell them about the extreme dangers and overwhelming possibility of death, or even worse actually, because quite a few Dark Continent creatures have abilities that force humans into a sort of eternal state of torture, such as the Zobai disease, which Beyond has first-hand experience with. Now, all of this is not to say that Beyond's actions were not predicted, because Isaac, anticipating his death, recorded a video message for the Hunter Association informing them of Beyond and his ambitions, and furthermore even charging them with the task to explore the Dark Continent before Beyond and acquire something of great use to humanity. Although after hearing of the Kakian Empire's ambitions, the Association received a request from the V5 to hunt and capture Beyond. However, Beyond anticipated this and turned himself into the Association before they would have the chance to do so. And just as he had done successfully thus far, he also put himself in a position to manipulate the Association into facilitating his goals, as he correctly predicted that the V5 nations would come to support the endeavors of the Kakian Empire, which not only did they, but they even incorporated the Empire into their group, becoming the V6. Although Beyond still remained effectively a prisoner of the Hunter Association and is currently incarcerated aboard the Black Whale 1, being guarded by 3 members of the Zodiacs, one of which being Sayu, has been identified as a spy working with Beyond's expedition team. Quite notably though, we also have confirmation that Beyond honestly knows nothing about a spy within the Zodiacs, so this would appear to be a plot formed purely by Pariston. But as of right now, the plan is to go above the Kakian Empire's head and drop them off at another landmass known as the New Continent, after which point Beyond, the Hunter Association, and select members of the previous V5 nations will proceed to the actual Dark Continent. And at the moment, Beyond seems perfectly content with this. In fact, he is in one of the best possible situations, being escorted under high guard to exactly the location that he desires to be in, while all the chaos of the Succession War is playing out around him. Now, what isn't clear at this stage is exactly what has become of his expedition team. None of them have been sighted aboard the Black Whale 1, so they may have embarked via a different ship or have another method entirely. That, or they're hiding aboard the Black Whale, as many others are, but whatever the case, Beyond is currently involved in more of a waiting game, and he doesn't care whatsoever for anything happening around him. He has a very singular focus on returning to the site of disaster. And this drive is pretty terrifying, because Beyond's goal, while unknown, is obviously starkly different from everyone else who wishes to travel there. For example, most individuals or countries dream of finding a rare asset to humanity that would revolutionize the world, as well as solidify their own personal power. Or in the case of Jing Freaks, he seems more genuinely curious than anything. But Beyond, on the other hand, well, he seems to know exactly what he's looking for, and it gives off some very sinister overtones. It's something that I feel Isaac had a decent idea of as well, which is why he went to the effort of recording that video for the Association, warning them of Beyond, and trying to get their full force involved. So this guy, to me, is a ticking time bomb of villainy. On a vessel that contains antagonists like Hisoka, the Phantom Troop, and Saradnik, Beyond is the person who probably terrifies me the most. And I think the reasons why are going to become very apparent when his half-a-century plan comes to fruition and he finds himself let loose on the Dark Continent. And that pretty much does it for Beyond Netero, for now anyway. If you enjoyed this video and the content this channel produces in general, then please do consider donating to the New World Review Patreon, because the support of all of you amazing people is what continues to make this channel possible. And if Patreon isn't quite your style, then please do leave this video a like, share, or subscribe, because it also helps support this channel an incredible amount. And if you'd like to join the fun at any time, then please do head over to my Discord server, where a wide array of shenaniganry takes place on a daily basis. And finally, please do comment with your thoughts on Beyond Netero. This has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time. How would you imagine a return for Gon that makes it satisfying and fair? So from my perspective, if Gon does return to the story, the one thing I don't want for him is to be able to use Nen again, or at least not to the extent that he was previously able to. I think that doing so would take away a huge part of the dramatic sacrifice that was required to beat Neferpitou, and I really like that even though he was restored by Nanika, that this is a decision that he is going to have to live with permanently. So if Gon does need to be involved in the future, for example if any of the gyro stuff comes to fruition, then I'd like to see him handle it without the use of Nen. I think it would be a cool way to bookend the series because he started out not knowing it, and I just don't want the vow he made in the Chimera Ant arc to become narratively undercut. Why did you choose the name New World Review? Alright, nice question. So if you're a One Piece fan, then it's probably pretty obvious why I chose this name, and I'll say right here that my other channel is called Grand Line Review. The Grand Line being the location of the world where the bulk of the One Piece story takes place, and the second half of the Grand Line is called the New World. So when I wanted to make a second channel, it just made thematic sense to escalate from Grand Line Review into the New World Review. Although I am legitimately thinking of seeing if we can change it to the Nen World Review, although that would require all sorts of rebranding efforts on my part, so I'll be honest, it will more than likely just remain New World Review.